yourself and what your role is in education, and we'll let you people introduce yourself. And people want to know why you're up there, what you're doing in this field, which is a very critical field.
What am I doing in my spare time?
Spare time, that's right.
I'm Carole Haynes, and I'm a National Education Policy Analyst and Consultant. I'm a curriculum specialist. I'm a speaker, author, and I'm also a businesswoman. I'm also a classical pianist and organist. I received a doctorate in curriculum and administration from the University of Memphis. Undergraduate and graduate studies were in classical music and history at the University of Memphis, Rhodes College, and the St. Louis Conservatory of Music. I taught American history. I also taught a Southern history as well as teacher education courses at the college level and served as a college administrator. At the secondary school level, I taught music and history courses. At the same time, I continued, and I still do continue, to perform at the keyboard. I served as expert reviewer for the Texas State Board of Education Fine Arts Curriculum Standards, and I regularly consult with state and federal lawmakers about education policy. I speak widely to audiences about the effects of the socialist agenda on our nation, our Western culture, and education. My Haynes Report has an audience not only in the United States, but in numerous foreign nations. Recently, I created the podcast, which you can find at my website, drcarolehaynes.com, and then later it will be available on your cell phones. And the name of it is Stopping the Deep State Takeover of American Education and the Economy. This was a speech that I'd given recently, and so many people had asked would I produce it. And so I decided to do it in a podcast so people could listen while they were in the car or working. There are going to be other podcasts that are going to be following about the New World Order, the future of American education, communism, socialism in America, and also an unrevised history of the South, including the Civil War and all things Southern. And we're going to make sure that people are educated about the Confederate statues. My extensive commentaries on American education and culture and Southern history and culture have been published widely, can be found at my website. I also am a founder of American Citizens Matter that educates and activates citizens to reconnect with our founding principles to win the ideological, social, moral, and spiritual battle for the mind of this generation. I'm a co-founder of Citizens Matter, which is a watchdog for tyranny and corruption in local government. As a businesswoman, I'm the managing partner for both West Fort Real Estate Development and AmFlight Services, which provides unmanned aerial, which is drone mapping and surveying of land and buildings. Now, in my free time, I sit on the Unmanned Aerial Service Education Training Committees for the North Central Texas Council of Government.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Odell, and I'm a mom. And I've been in McKinney for 17 years. I've served on the board for almost 6 years. I also serve on the McKinney Education Foundation board. I serve on the Baylor Hospital board. I've been in various PTAs and PTOs throughout the district and been very involved in schools. I'm passionate about public education, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Meagan Corser. I'm a policy analyst for the Texas Homeschool Coalition. We deal with education and family law issues, so dealing with the right to educate your children the way you see fit and also the right to raise them the way you see fit, which we see as being foundational for the right to homeschool. I've been doing this for a couple of years. We have done 2 sessions so far that I've been around. So we've done a lot of good things. We work in Austin to prevent bad bills from getting through, especially ones that relate to homeschooling or educational issues in general. And then we also have several bills that we work on to protect homeschooling rights and parental rights in general. I did speech and debate in high school, which is how I got into policy and law in the first place. My BA is in business management, but I work in policy, and that's where I'm going to be for the foreseeable future.
Hi, my name is Johannes Starks. I am a mom of 5. I am an educational consultant with the Texas Education Agency, and what we do is we work with early college high schools, T-STEM academies, and pathways to technology schools. And so I literally work with schools all over the state to help ensure that our students in public education can get associate's degrees and or industry certifications while they're in high school. I have, like I said, 5 kids, 3 of which have gone through the public system and 2 which I'm currently homeschooling into an associate's degree.
Good evening, I'm Pam Little, and I love serving on the State Board of Education. and I truly thank you for electing me to do so. And as you know, the State Board of Education, one of our main responsibilities is to review the TEKS when they come up for renewal. And we're in the process right now of doing the health standards, which you can imagine some of the things we're dealing with, trying to keep it conservative and not like some of the things that Austin ISD has done. And excuse me, I'm getting over the flu a little bit. We also, but I am over it. And we also are reviewing our science standards and doing some interesting things with that. And one of the things that I serve on the curriculum committee. I am actually the vice chair of the curriculum committee. And some of you may be familiar with House Bill 1026, which directed the state board to embed or to create positive character traits within our TEKS. So we asked the staff to go through all of our existing TEKS, because we really do not want to have a separate set of standards for positive character traits. I think that just opens up too many cans of worms. So we asked our staff to go through our existing TEKS to find out where, and when I say TEKS, that's our state standards, to find out where these positive character traits might already be embedded. And they came back and found that about 90% of these were already in our standards. But the one that they missed that just amazed me is they said we didn't teach courage to our students. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, okay, what about the Alamo? What about the Civil War, Battle of Gettysburg? What about D-Day? What about Washington crossing the Delaware? What about the 9/11 first responders? So we have asked them to go back and scrub that list a little bit more. So what I'm hoping we're going to find when we do that is that these positive character traits are already in our TEKS, we're done, we move on, and we don't have to create a separate set of TEKS.
Hi, my name is Chad Green. I am the CEO of 5-Star Innovation. We are a cybersecurity, robotics, and coding competition. We create curriculum, and our goal really is to inspire students to get excited about education and then follow their dreams, and we place them in internships. We find scholarships for them. We just gave $90,000 in scholarships away this last weekend in El Paso. And we are currently in 6 nations and 3 continents. And so we're moving quickly. So we're excited. We have the largest regional competition in the world. About 2,000 kids compete all at the same time. And that's a lot of fun. So I do that, and I've worked with CTB McGraw-Hill in their measurement division. I've worked with NWEA in measurement as well in the state of Texas, of course. The math and science diagnostic system for the state of Texas, I actually created that with the TEA, and that was a really great project. And I've worked with other states throughout the nation on their measurement products.
Thank you. Okay, let's pass it down. We'll get Stephanie for the next one. Here's the first real question. And some of these questions are going to be specific to a certain deal. If you don't want to answer it, just pass it on down. I want to give everybody an opportunity. But if it's not yours, just say it's not. Give me your view on the current state of education in Texas today. You can talk generically or just in your own area of expertise, your choice.
The current view of education in Texas today.
State of education.
Okay. Well, my expertise is in McKinney. And in McKinney, we're doing great things. And when I go to conferences with the state and at the national level, I learn a few things, but I learned, wow, we're already doing that. Wow, we're already doing that. Wow, we have technology in the hands of every high school student because everyone has a computer. So everyone's equal in high school. So the state of education across the state, every city is different because their population is different. So they have different needs. We have 25,000 students in McKinney. That's a large district. Very many tiny districts in Texas, they have different needs. So from my standpoint and my expertise in McKinney is we're doing great things. We can always improve, we can always do better, and we want to do better. But we have great leaders and our kids are doing great things. Like, come to a school board meeting, we always have kids doing presentations, and they are doing elementary, middle, high school. They're all so proud to show off what they're doing. It's very exciting.
Just pass it right on. Let's go this way. We'll go down. Let's go this way. We'll just keep it going and try to start with somebody different each time. then we'll get back to.
So my experience is in homeschooling. I was never in public school, so I deal more with homeschooling and private schooling issues. And I think from a legal perspective, we are far above any other state in the country. In terms of educational rights, we are the most free state in the United States. We have the fewest laws restricting or regulating education, at least in terms of non-traditional public schooling. So charter schools, homeschools, private schools. I think we are doing a great job, and I would like to see it kept that way. My personal opinion is that parents and teachers are the ones who are best equipped to educate children and make educational decisions. And when you centralize the decision-making authority to the state, you end up hurting the kids. So I like the state the way it is. I think it is a really great legal system that we have here in Texas as far as education goes. And I would like to see that continue.
So I think the state of Texas has done a great job in providing different opportunities for different kids. So when we're talking about homeschooling, early college, high schools, T-STEM academies, and P-TECH, I think the state has been very intentional on creating programs to ensure student success. So recognizing that there are certain industries within the state that we need to ensure that our kids are getting certifications and credentials so that we can fill those jobs in Texas instead of having those come out. Ensuring that we provide opportunities for students to live and work in the communities that they're in without having to be educated in Dallas and go live in Austin for that. So looking at the labor market data in their specific areas and then tailoring their programs to that. And then also recognizing that all kids are not going to go to college. And so whereas we are providing opportunities for them to get associate's degrees when they're in high school and so that they can matriculate into the four-year college, but also giving them the opportunity to get certification. So having an associate of applied science in a specific field and working with the business and industries to understand what is it that I need in order to have a high wage, high demand, high skill career, not job, because job's journey of the broke, but having a high career so that I can live and work in that community. And I think that the state of Texas, by having these different opportunities in different regions in the state, has done a great job of that.
In the state of Texas, we have over 5 million students. And my vision for that is that we get our students ready to learn, and then we get them ready to earn. And what I mean by that is we need to have all of our third graders reading on grade level by the third grade. Because from kindergarten to third grade, that's when they learn how to read. And then after third grade, they're going to learn by reading. And that's why the reading is so important. And when I say ready to earn, we've done a tremendous job of increasing our career and technology courses. We have over 200 certificates where the students, just like my colleague here was talking about, where they can go and they can get a degree, they can get a certificate, and they can go right out into the workplace and start working, which I'm all for. I think everybody needs to go earn their own way. We recently at the state board approved a cluster of energy courses so that our students now can get a certificate in the energy field. So I'm really pleased with the work that we're doing, but we have our work cut out for us to get these kids on grade level by the third grade. Right now we have 45% of our students reading on grade level at the third grade, so we've got a big job to do.
I think we're in a state of flux right now in education in the state of Texas. As Pam has said and as Johannes has said, we're changing a lot in education. We're bringing in P-TECH academies and things like that in response to, are we sending the right students to college? That's direct response from our colleges saying we're not getting the right kids. They're dropping out early. They're going to very expensive schools like Baylor and so forth. And yet in high school they have really high grades. When they get to these other university level educations, they start dropping out. And so I think that's why you're seeing the P-TECH academies come up, the realization that, okay, maybe we're not really educating them the right way. Now you're seeing the P-TECH academies come about because of that, certifications coming about, and it's changing a lot in education to the point where the universities now have certifications embedded in their degree program for the purpose that the kids can actually get jobs once they get their college degree. So when you start taking a look at colleges across the nation, look at the certification programs that are a part of that degree for your student. See how the school district that your kids are going to right now, how do they connect into those type of certification programs? Are they teaching to certifications? Those are keys to jobs.
Pass the mic down, please.
I think I look at it maybe from a different perspective. And when we're talking about are the students being prepared to go into careers, we know that nationwide we're just exploding on that. We're doing so much better with this focus on getting people prepared to have jobs, and the jobs are there now. Unfortunately, not only nationwide, but in Texas, our reading and our math scores have been dropping, and they have not come back up. We're going to have to do something about that. And the reason I say that is that we find that 60%, that the employers say that 60% of their people who come to them, even from college, are not prepared to go into their job market. What they really need is students or young people who are able to communicate, and knowing all about technology is somewhere down around 13th. They need to be able to communicate orally, and they need for them to be able to have analytical abilities. Right now, the jobs that we're really focusing on are the things that are for right now. There have been studies that have been run on this just recently, and we know that in this coming in this coming century, we need a high level of skills and analytical abilities, and yet we're below what other nations. We are literally on the bottom right now. There have been studies that have been done on this recently. We used to be at the very top of the rung, and now we are the least educated, well-educated workforce in the world. This is going to impact our economy. So even though we have all of these wonderful opportunities here in Texas, and we have more opportunities to school, and including a new unschooling movement, which is sort of a quasi-private school homeschooling, we're going to have to do something as far as doing a better job when I say in the classroom, but of educating our students. We're so focused on dumbing down and trying to being so correct in everything that we're ignoring what these students really need. And then we wonder why they come out and they don't like America and they hate America. But that's another whole topic. I think what we're going to have to do is to go back and start raising the standards of what we're teaching. These kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. But instead of these jobs that are going to be automated, we are going to be needing a lot of service jobs. And this requires much, much higher skills. So even though like 25% of what teachers do today will be automated, and they're going to have to be retrained, by the same token, we're going to have a higher level all across the board, not just down here, but everybody is going to, the boat's going to have to be lifted up across the board. And if we want to get in sync with the rest of the world, when kids come out of high school, our high school curriculum is 2.5 years behind what the top countries in the world are. Our high school curriculum, their college curriculum is so far above ours that we can't compete with them.
Okay, next question, which will look down to Meagan. What is the greatest threat to quality primary and secondary public education in Texas today?
Oh goodness, that's a good question. I think poor educational curricula is probably the biggest one. Over the last couple of decades, we have seen a huge rise in non-traditional schooling methods. So increase in homeschooling, increase in public schooling, increase in charter schools. And I think that is largely due to the public school system failing our children, to be frank. I'm a big fan of what's called multiple intelligence theory, which is the theory that children have different intelligences. So you can be a musical genius but not be very good at math. And so children just have different learning styles in different areas that they're inclined to. And when you can teach to those methods, then children learn better. So learning the alphabet through a song is a great method that works well for a lot of children. And that's just one example of teaching to children's learning methods. And I think by and large, the public school system has not incorporated that into the curricula. In the 1980s, when homeschooling was just kind of getting started, the biggest reason cited for homeschooling was concerns about religious persecution within public schooling, wanting to keep your children away from any harm or negative things that they might be exposed to when interacting with other kids or other people. Now we have seen a huge shift from it being this like private religious conservative movement to it being an academic focused movement. Today, one of the biggest cited reasons for homeschooling is concerns about children's academic achievement in public schooling. And when you have specific curricula that you can tailor to a child, then they learn better. And I can speak from personal experience to that, and there have been a lot of studies done that show that homeschoolers and private schoolers consistently perform above average on standardized testing when compared to their public school counterparts. And I think the biggest reason is poor curricula used in the public school systems. I know teachers work really hard to educate their children and do a lot of good, but I think they are bound in a system that is not working towards their or their students' favor.
Could you repeat the question? I got a little lost in that.
What is the greatest threat to quality primary and secondary public education in Texas today?
The greatest threat. I kind of hate to say this, but I think it's the lack of teacher preparation. And one of the things that we have done, or that the HBIll 3 did, is they put a lot of money aside for reading academies so that we can provide scientific-based reading instruction for our teachers. They need that. We need, for some reason 10 years ago, they took phonics out of the curriculum. They took cursive writing out of the curriculum. Thankfully, that is back in the curriculum now, but we have a whole group of teachers that really don't understand how to teach phonics. And phonics is a lifelong skill that our students really, really need. So I think that's one of our biggest concerns right now, is getting our teachers educated to prepare the students for the jobs of the future. And obviously, communication, I think, is really important. Another thing that I see that is critical thinking. Our students lost the ability to critical think. And that's one of the things that I know we have done in some of the new standards that we have coming out. We have really upped to the level for the critical thinking in those. And I think that if we can get them reading and get them thinking, we're going to be a lot better off.
Actually, I think that was a really excellent answer. The critical thinking portion, I think, is the big thing for primary and secondary. How do we teach these skills? Because these skills do not become evident when the kids go on to college. So we are not producing them, and that's causing a lot of educational leaders to look back and say, okay, how do we incorporate these things and redo these things? Because it's different. It's not regurgitating material up on a board somewhere. You're working with your hands, you're creating depth in the lesson itself, and creating mastery maybe in one lesson instead of multiple steps along the way.
Go way down and keep coming back.
Can I just say something really
Sure.
quick? When I think about, I wanted to get my thoughts together before I spoke about secondary education. Having had children who have done public school education, private school education, and now homeschooling, when we talk about that critical thinking piece, and when we talk about kids matriculating from high school and going into college, going from the high school classroom to the college classroom are completely different things. And the standards that they have in high school are a higher standard than they have in college, are a higher standard than they have in high school. And so giving the students the opportunity with these associate's degrees to be taught by professors when they're in high school and have those additional supports on the high school level, I think is key to bridging that gap. Because what we're seeing is the kids that are graduating from their early college high schools, the STEM academies, the P-Tech academies, are faring well when they go into either the job market, because we prepare them for those work-based learning skills. She's exactly right. Technology is down on the list. When we talk to employers, they want someone who can write an email, someone who can make eye contact, someone who can think on their feet. And they're learning those skills when they're getting these industry-based certifications because they get the opportunity to work with industry. So they have to have industry partners that partner with these programs that allow students to job shadow, because we're asking students and kids to make decisions on their careers earlier and earlier. And students are making decisions based upon money. They have no idea what they know about that field. And so when they're in these academies give them the opportunity to, really they have to, as part of the blueprint, partner with business and then job shadow. Is that really what I want to do? We fake them out in high school in engineering because they're building all these things, and they go to college, and guess what? Engineers don't build, they design. And so they need to have a realistic view of, when I'm choosing this career, this is really what I'm going to do on a day-to-day basis. And when they do that, then they're excited about what they learn, and then they progress. It's when they have to do things that they're going to have to do things they don't care about. Math is not my forte, but I know I have to do math. But if at the end of the day there's an end goal, and I understand as an end goal, and the student understands that this is my way to get to the end, then they're going to do what they have to do. They want to know, when am I ever going to use this? And until we can have application in the work-based learning with the colleges and put the coordinating board, the workforce commission, and K-12 together to figure that problem out, then you're going to continue to see this gap.
There seems to be a problem of public trust with public education today. And yet, this is what has catapulted America to such greatness, was our elementary and our secondary mass school movement. We peaked out on it in about the 1950s because we lost our way. Right around the 1930s, we began to start dumbing down, and yet we had great opportunities where there was a great academic track, classical education, along with some vocational studies. Then we started really dumbing down, and that's where we are today. Instead of giving our kids a great academic education, our focus today, the number one focus is on social and emotional learning, and that's coming out of Washington. So we need to get back to academic as being the main focus on our public education, instead of having sexualization in our schools and all the other things our parents are really tired of. These kids can do a lot more than we give them credit for, so we need to get back to the basics. The only way we're going to teach critical thinking is if kids have something in their brains to think with. We can't ask them to do critical thinking if they don't have some facts that are in there. And right now we aren't teaching math, and we could be teaching math, but we're not teaching math. Even at the 7th grade, my friends who are math teachers tell me in the 7th grade, these kids still cannot do multiplication tables. And if they can't do that, then they can't do fractions or anything else. So if our kids can't compute and they can't read, and we know that 20% of our high schools in America, seniors, cannot even read at the level of 10-year-olds, then we're in really, really sad shape. And if only 60%, I reversed that a while ago, if only 60% of college graduates are ready to go into the workforce, what do you think about all the others who really don't have the ability to do any kind of critical thinking? It is absolutely necessary for us as a nation, for our economy, that we better educate our students, and we can do that if we get all this other socialization out of the classroom and get back to the main things. If you will look at the, if you'll go to some of the private school websites and you see what they're teaching, it's a lot simpler. In the public schools, we try to teach too much, and it gets too varied. It's too much and it's too watered down. And we've got to do more of having, and this really also started under the Clintons, under the Clinton administration, when they began to work toward a planned economy. And there were 3 bills that were passed during that period of time. And one of them is the Workforce Act. Now, I'm not against workforce training at all, believe me. I do not. Even having a doctorate, I get a lot of flack when I say that we don't need for everyone to have a college education. It's not required. It's only there for the employers say, hey, they're pretty smart, and maybe they're really not. Maybe that college degree is not worth that much. So we've got to get back and have a good basic education in our high schools, in our elementary schools, and that's the only way we're going to move straight ahead. We can do it. We've got the money to do it. We've got the willpower to do it.
I'd like to say, first of all, that McKinney's scores in math and reading are above average for the district and for the region and the state. I'd also like to say I think the greatest, threat to primary and secondary is not supporting our teachers. We put so many demands on our teachers, and that's from the state, and then we need to support them. We're asking them to do everything, be their friend, their counselor, their teacher, their mom, their dad, everything. So if we're gonna ask them to do that, we need to support our teachers.
Good points. Okay, we talked about school choice. My next question was, if we were to pass some kind of school choice, do we think we beat the school choice to death? Do you want to talk about, anybody want to comment on, should we have the statewide voucher program? Anybody have any comments on that?
So I actually worked on this bill 2 sessions ago, so I have lots of opinions about it. So my personal opinion is that parents are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the education of their children. And for a lot of families, that means putting their kids in public school. Some, that means putting them in private school. And I think that the parents are the ones who are best equipped to make educational decisions for their children. And for families who do not work best in public school, or whose children don't thrive best in public school, should have the opportunity, and we should encourage them to pursue the educational method that is best for their children. As far as financial aspects are concerned, families who don't participate in public school save the state an average of $2 billion a year. And I think that because those families are paying property taxes, the state is getting that money, but they're not having to pay to educate those children. Those families are saving the state a lot of money. And so purely from a financial aspect, I think it makes sense to allow vouchers or educational savings accounts or some sort of school choice financial aspects for those families in compensation, since they are saving the state a lot of money.
Okay, does anybody else want to comment on that? We talked about some.
I'd like to see the ESAs here in Texas. This is certainly a golden opportunity to have the money to come back so that we can be putting money into those ESAs. And so this would go along. It's different from a voucher.
ESA?
Yeah.
Educational savings account.
Education savings, because when you put money in there, it's kind of like a 401k, an IRA, a 529. So the money is tax deferred, but the money can be used anywhere. Like with a voucher, you maybe can put it just at the one school. But on the ESAs, you can use this money for all kinds of things. It could be for books. It could be for multiple opportunities for education. So I would love to see that here. And Don Huffines had worked on that, trying to get that through when he was in office.
Now, would that be